Stonehenge, Britain's most famous ancient monument and one of its most popular tourist attractions. The stone's prehistoric mysteries have fascinated generations, but what many don't know is that the stone's contemporary history is as controversial as its past. From hippies to travelers, from police repression in the Thatcher years to neo-paganism in the new millennium, Stonehenge has earned a place as one of the most contested pieces of British identity.
Stonehenge attracts different groups of people from outside the cultural mainstreams because it's iconic. It's a place that's drawn people there, and in some ways it sort of symbolises ancient religion, mysticism, and it's also the fact that it's always drawn people there, particularly at certain times of the year, because there have been midsummer celebrations there, you know, as far back as you can recall. And I think this is what happened in the 60s, was that, you know, the hippie era where, you know, let's go to Stonehenge, celebrate the midsummer. It became a music festival.
The first gatherings, I think, were 1972.
Alan Lodge is a photojournalist and a former traveller and free festival organiser.
Haven't we always done it there? And what are they for? I mean, some people think that they're where you split open goats and offer on the slaughter stone offerings to the gods. Some people think it's a clock. Some people think it's a spiritual thing about God. Some people think it's a star observatory. Others think it's a celebratory note where people from across Europe for the last 8,000 years have gathered and been them, their tribe. It's part of their identity. And, well, don't we fit into that?
But the party was about to stop. The Conservative government decided to come down against the free festivals, and Stonehenge was first on the line.
We got out, and I heard a bit of shouting and things. I looked up the line, and I was about the 13th or 14th vehicle, I think it worked out. And suddenly I realised that there was policemen running down the side, and they had their truncheons out and they were smashing windows about the first 4 or 5 vehicles. And then this standoff developed with policemen on the road and people on the field, and myself, including others, tried to negotiate a stand down from the aggravation that was starting to develop. But one of the things that alarmed me most was that the police, during the initial skirmishes, were using their truncheons to clout people around the side of the head. Now, that's not a use of minimum force. You know, I mean, if the police were really being threatened and that they were fighting back from what was going on, then any kind of injury is allowed. But this is not what was going on. Like, these people were being clouted by the side of the head, sometimes while running away.
This year marks the 30th anniversary of the so-called Battle of the Beanfield, which led to what some think may have been the largest mass arrest in English legal history. Mr. Lodge and 23 others later sued Wiltshire police, and 21 of the travellers were deemed to be victims of wrongful arrest, false imprisonment and damage to property.
It was no longer a sustainable and positive role model and ended up as a refugee column, and that's so sad.
And then, of course, what happened after that was that it became a sort of focus for conflict for a while. It was a place where you could go and confront authority, because you would, you know, lots of you would be there. The authorities tried to stop it all, obviously, in the 1980s. So it was, at that stage, it was very unpleasant. It was a horrible atmosphere, because it was, rather than being a place of celebration, it was a place of antagonism and a place of conflict. And when it was ringed with razor wire and security guards and helicopters flying overhead, I mean, that was so far from what it should be at midsummer. It was just horrible.
The New Age traveller movement now a spent force. The charge to open the stones to the public came from an unlikely source: the Druids, who had been bolstered by the 90s surge in popularity of neo-paganism.
The access to Stonehenge brought together many disparate groups that wouldn't otherwise have sat down in the same room. And it was a miracle, quite frankly, that they could all stay talking for as long as they did, but not all of their aims were the same. Druids really didn't want a free festival at Stonehenge in case it damaged the stones, but we did want free access at those times, So we worked together for a common cause.
After years of protests and arrests and rounds of negotiations with English heritage, the druidic orders finally won their battle for open access to the stones in 2000.
Public access at the solstices is a good idea because it's a grassroots thing. If you go to Stonehenge at the summer solstice particularly, there can be 35,000 people, and some of those are druids, but not many. A lot of them are families from Salisbury, a lot of them are tourists, a lot of them are New Age travellers who want to party, or other kinds of pagan, and they all mix. Some people had to fight for it, but our order is not political, and we felt it was becoming too confrontational.
The thing about Stonehenge is that really in some ways everybody's entitled to their own theories, and people will contact me and say, I know why Stonehenge was built and I know how it was built, and I go, okay, that's fine, that's your idea. I disagree with you because I'd like to feel that I've got a grasp of the actual evidence that's there. But I mean, in some ways it's nice because it is a place that does excite imagination, and has done for a long while, not only sort of artistic and poetic, but people have thought about it and speculated about it. And in all honesty, a lot of these ideas, you can't say that's not the case because we just simply don't know.